Hi, I'm Mandy and welcome to my channel. Today I'm reviewing the recent remaster of one of my favourite Nintendo DS games, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Ghost Trick is a puzzle adventure game that was originally released by Capcom in 2010. It's often labelled one of the best DS games in the narrative-driven puzzle sphere, thanks in large part to its impressive story, which was written by Shu Takumi, the creator of the Ace Attorney series. In this video, I will be both reviewing the game as well as evaluating how well the remaster holds up against the original release. All the footage I've used is from the PC version of the game, but it's also available on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. So let's get started. Ghost Trick tells the story of the recently deceased Sissel, who, at the beginning of the game, awakens as a ghost to find his dead body lying in a heap in the middle of a junkyard. There are two other people here, a redhead woman and someone who appears to be some sort of hitman pointing a gun at her. Now Sissel has no idea what's going on, as he has lost all of the memories he had prior to his death. This is when he's introduced to another spirit who is currently residing in a desk lamp and calls himself Ray. Ray teaches Sissel about ghost tricks. As a ghost, Sissel has the power to travel through objects and manipulate them to change the state of the living world. Throughout the course of the game, Sissel uses his powers to pursue the truth about who he is and why he lost his life. This woman is the only lead he has, but it appears that someone is out for her life. On his journey, he comes across a lot of death, but thankfully he has another special ghost trick, the ability to rewind time. When he connects to a body's core, he is able to travel 4 minutes prior to their death. And this is what makes up the majority of the puzzles in the game. Sissel uses his ghost tricks to alter the fate of the victims and prevent their deaths, all while on his quest to discover the truth behind his own. The catch is, he only has one night on Earth before his spirit moves on, which means he doesn't have any time to waste. So that's the premise of Ghost Trick. It is quite a short game, at about 12 hours, but I think this works really well with the way they've designed the story. Because the entire game takes place throughout the course of one night, there's a lot of action happening. Every chapter keeps you interested by revealing small pieces of the mystery, while simultaneously creating more questions that will make you eager to continue playing. There aren't really any moments that feel too drawn out or uninteresting. The pacing is fantastic, and I think the length of the game really lends itself to this. While the major plotline is quite serious and suspenseful, the game does a good job at interspersing this with moments of silliness and humour, very similar to the way Ace Attorney does. You'll see a lot of that Ace Attorney flair as you play through the game. Eccentric characters with over-the-top reactions, a series of very creative murders, and a story that isn't afraid to take us places we might not be expecting. So the core of the gameplay in Ghost Trick is about using Sissel's powers to change the fates of some of the unfortunate souls that happen to lose their lives tonight. We do this by manipulating the chain of events that lead to their death, which is where the puzzle gameplay comes in. Sissel can perform ghost tricks to activate certain responses within some of the items he possesses. For example, opening a folding table or swiveling a desk lamp. An important part of this, which also comes into play during the investigation scenes, involves being able to manipulate the environment to create a path for Sissel to travel through. Because he can only exist in the core of an object, if he wants to get from point A to point B by himself, he needs to do it by jumping between different items in a room. He only has a short reach, so oftentimes he needs to get creative and use his powers to move things around until they create that path for him. A really fun thing they've implemented into the puzzle design is the importance of timing. While in the ghost world, time is paused, which allows Sissel to take advantage of the state of the world at that specific moment in time. Oftentimes you'll need to move into certain objects at a specific point in the animation sequence. There are also many moments in which you need to time your tricks with the animations. So even though it is a puzzle game, there are some small elements of action to keep you on your toes. For the most part, the puzzles are very logical with a pretty well-balanced difficulty level. There are a small handful that require a bit of trial and error, just to get an understanding of the specific rules of the scene, but for the most part they manage to be challenging while also making sense. If you get stuck on things, the character's dialogue will guide you through it if you click on their little thought bubbles, but you can also decide to do things on your own if you'd prefer. So even though you can't adjust the difficulty, the game makes sure that the puzzles are approachable for a variety of skill levels. So because this is a remaster, I think it's important to look at whether or not it maintains the integrity of the original game. Now, I'm a big fan of the Nintendo DS, so whenever remasters are released, I tend to look at them pretty critically. Truth be told, I think a lot of modern DS remasters fall short, simply because it's difficult to perfectly translate an experience that was designed for such a unique system. I think a good example of some of the issues you can run into with this can be found in the remaster for The World Ends With You. The gimmick in the original game is that during battles you control the main character with the stylus on the bottom screen, while simultaneously controlling his partner on the top screen using the D-pad. When they brought this game to the Switch, they removed partner control completely, which watered down the gameplay quite a lot. And so that's a remaster that I struggle to recommend as a replacement for the DS game because it's missing so much of what made it unique. And I do understand the struggle. The DS was a very special console, so games that leaned on its unique features are naturally going to be hard to bring to modern systems. But that said, I am very happy to report that the Ghost Trick remaster doesn't suffer from any of these issues. I actually think this might be the best remaster of a DS game I've seen to this date. The original game didn't utilize the top screen as heavily as some other DS games did. Essentially, it would just display information about the name of the object Sissel's currently possessing and the trick he can make it perform. In the remaster, they got around this by simply displaying this information to the side of the object on the main screen. I think this was a great solution and arguably more convenient. Now, as for the graphical enhancements, I couldn't be more pleased. This truly looks like Ghost Trick DS, but in HD. And these models haven't just been smoothed over and stripped of their personality either. They feel alive. In these side-by-side comparisons, you can see just how good of a job they did. Keep in mind the left side has been blown up a lot. I think the original game still looks beautiful on a DS screen, but it's definitely nice to be able to enjoy it elsewhere, and to have it look as good as it does. It feels like we're finally seeing these 3D character models the way they were always meant to look. It honors the original incredibly well, which is something I greatly appreciate. I also have to praise the work they've done on remastering the soundtrack. They've been able to preserve that original sound while simultaneously making it feel fuller and stronger. It's a pretty subtle difference in a lot of the tracks, but that's really all that was needed. I think the original soundtrack was very strong on its own, so I'm glad they didn't change too much about it. So overall, I really don't have any problem recommending this version over the DS one, which feels great to say for a change. It really maintains the integrity of the original, and again, I think that's because Ghost Trick really didn't lean too heavily on the DS hardware. I don't really have any major critiques of the remaster, but one thing I can see others having an issue with is the fact that it does maintain the original DS aspect ratio. I don't think it's a big deal personally, but I can understand that sentiment. I think they might have made the decision to keep it this way because it is a side-scrolling game. I'm not an expert at all, but I could see how widening the field of view might have an impact on things like puzzle solving or scene framing, and maybe seeing more than you're supposed to sometimes. But yeah, I really don't think that takes away from the quality of the remaster. And they've added some customizable backgrounds to make it more fun as well. The remaster has a few other new features, including challenges, which correspond with Steam achievements, and there are also a few sliding puzzles you unlock after beating the game, which is a nice little bonus. So in conclusion, I think Ghost Trick is a fantastic game with a great narrative, good pacing, and clever puzzle design. The remaster gives it a breath of new life with its beautifully redone graphics and music, while keeping the story and mechanics untouched to preserve the integrity of the original game. If you're looking for a short adventure game with a lot of personality and some fun twists and turns, I think Ghost Trick is definitely worth checking out. There is a demo available which allows you to play through the first 2 chapters and carry over your save data, so if you'd like to try out the puzzles yourself, you do have that option too. But that's all from me for today. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!